Okay, so we're back again to cut a Lancelot target, and I'm using 3 very different swords this time, assuming that the target survives long enough. And the reason we have these 3 swords is they all are of approximately the same weight. They're all around 700 grams. So none of these are super duper sharp. All of them are paper cutting sharp, but they're not the sharpest examples of any of the swords in my collection. So we will see how they do against one of the lightest targets. So Lancelot says this type of target is about equivalent to a lower arm limb. Let's see how they do. So even though this is the thinnest of Lancelot's type of targets, I still consider this a heavier style of target. Compared to cutting water bottles, compared to cutting pool noodles, this is going to be a more resistive target for the sword to go through. It's rolled newspaper. I don't remember exactly how many sheets he's using. I think for this one it might be around 8 double-sided. So again, you do about times 6. So we're going to say that this is about 48 sheets of newspaper to cut through at any one strike. And then it does have a core of PPR piping. So there's a lot of resistance, even in this relatively small diameter a target. Let's see how it does with the latest rig. Again, there's a little bit of give to it. Let's see what we can do. All right. Struck the target, cut about 50% of the way into the bone. Didn't hurt the blade at all. But just so you can see, I'm not sure if we can get the camera in there, cut pretty deeply into the bone, but didn't go all the way through. We'll try again from the other side. Other side, Oberhau. And cut all the newspaper away, but did not cut through the bone. So my bone is exposed and heavily scored. My sword has not suffered any damage. I'm going to try another Oberhau on that side. All right, that time it cut cleanly through the bone. Heard the tink and made a nice little cut. So we can see where I had previously cut into the bone, and then this was the new cut. It looks like there was a little bit of tearing at the very end. Okay, so the messer has held up fine. No signs of edge damage. And I had to swing pretty hard even to go through this kind of small target in order for the messer to completely bisect it. So for a medium-sized swing, I was able to, if we're pretending this is an arm, I was able to cut about halfway through the arm and shatter the bone, but not completely bisect it. Let's see, next up we'll do the Kilij. All right, first one, I'm just going to do a little wrist-powered strike. I'm going to hit towards the end of the Kilij. All right. So we've dug in deeply. It's nicked the bone, but it has not gone all the way through. So hit the bone and stopped and then kicked out of the target. try that one more time on the other side. This time I'm going to try like an elbow-powered strike. Okay, so it hit on this side. It once again struck the bone, and here, I'll just pull it out real fast. So it cut through, cut through all the flesh, and then dug into the bone, making a nice cut, but didn't bisect the bone. That was a pretty hefty elbow-powered strike. I'm going to try one more time, this time with a kind of full-bodied drawing cut, more from the shoulder. Well, the target completely came apart, so unfortunately I can't tell exactly where I hit. Okay, I hit low that time, and I easily cleaved all of the fleshy parts. Didn't look like it cut into the bone that much. So the draw cut, while very good for the softer target, was not particularly good against the bone, which really needs more momentum behind it. So with that in mind, I'm going to try a strike a little bit higher than that, and I'm going to just give it a very solid whack, as if we're coming by with a cavalry strike. And fortunately, the target is coming apart a bit. I can't really tell where I struck there. I'd have to go back and look at it. Doesn't look like it caused much damage. I think that it caused a little bit of damage to the undercore pipe. All right, I'm going to call it a wash for the Kilij. So the Kilij is doing a lot of superficial damage, but it's not really going through the bone. Every time it hits the bone, it's causing chips and causing scores and cuts in it, but it's not really going through it, at least with how wobbly the target is. Let's try the Jian, see if we can get through. Okay, so my magnificent Jian is a little bit not as sharp as the previous Jian that I was testing on this type of target. The target is not being held quite as firmly as last time. We'll see what it can do. That was kind of interesting. Made it pop up out of the ground. No dice. No luck cutting through the target that time. The Jian is not suffering any damage, although again I am striking at a part where it's not super sharp. Try the other side. So it's delivering hefty cuts to it, but it's not going through the PPR piping. The PPR piping is resisting the attack. Try one more time, and then we'll call it a draw. Call it a draw. Quote the Black Knight. Okay. Yeah. So the Magnificent Chew is similarly not going all the way through. And again, I'm going to attribute this to sharpness. But right now, the rig is holding up. So very interesting. So the Messer is coming out on top of the three swords tested. In this case, I think that a lot is going to be due to the apexing. So they're all around the same weight. So I'm striking with similar leverage and mass. One is not significantly longer than the other. I was doing very slightly different types of swordsmanship and strike just to compare to see how each of them perform. The Peserey sword, the LK Chen sword, are both sharp enough to cut paper, but again, they're not razor sharp. The Landsknecht Emporium Messer is very slightly sharper, although again, not razor sharp at all. And this type of a target is very good at resisting strikes that are not able to find final purchase with the hard core on the interior. So yeah, this is the beginning of additional testing, I'd say. Great. Hopefully this is a good starting place for future testing. All right, guys. Until next time. Take care. Now we're moving up a weight class. This katana is around 1,000 grams. See how it does. All right. Katana went through very easily. Going to try with a different sword. This is the LK Chen Ribaldo, also about 1,000 grams, even though this one is just single-handed. This one is also quite sharp. That one cut through, I dare say, almost effortlessly. Here, I'll try a slightly lighter cut. Cut a little lower and not quite as hard, and it cut basically 50% of the way through. I'm not going to try again with this one because I do want to try one last sword that might not be quite as sharp. Okay, this is the LK Chen Silver Swallow Miaodao. So this is from the Republic period. It is sharp. It is not as sharp as the Ribaldo that we just tested. And it has this big, thick pipeback sword, which has been conjectured to have trouble transiting through very dense targets. And this is one of the densest targets we're going to have. It's a much bigger sword. It's about 1,600 grams. It's got a lot of leverage on it. So let's see what we can do. Oh. It looks like the Silver Swallow chomped into it. Did it bite the bone? If it hit the bone, it looks like it just skipped off. So I'll try one more time. Well, I think that it just snapped the bone at that point. Like, I was able to cut the meat just fine, but the bone cracked and shattered from a lower point, I think from the last place that I hit with the Ribaldo in that case. Because the Ribaldo bit into it reasonably well on that second strike. So unfortunately, it wasn't strong enough to take it. Interesting. Okay. So what have we learned through all of this? For this particular target, especially with the interior bone inside, the ability to have a very sharp edge is important. If you cannot bite into the bone, you're not going to be able to transit it. Just having a lot of force, even with a big sword like this, is not sufficient to be able to cut through the target, especially now that I've changed my rig. Previously, I was using a big steel pipe that was probably holding the target a little too firmly and allowing too much energy to transfer into it. This one has a lot more give. It's probably much more realistic and fair compared, for instance, to what Lancelot does. Lancelot sometimes is hitting targets that are just freestanding, and he's still able to swipe all the way through them. So a little bit more experimentation that needs to be done, but I think that this is finally a working rig, and we're going to have a whole bunch of more different targets and a whole bunch more different swords to be tested. Very cool. All right, until next time, guys. Take care.